Imagine walking into a quiet, snow-covered village, expecting to see people going about their daily lives, children playing, fires burning, food cooking. But instead, you find nothing. The homes are empty. The food is still on the tables, untouched. The fires are still burning. But the entire town is gone, not a single person in sight, no footprints in the fresh snow, no signs of where they went. And the most chilling part? Even the graves in the cemetery have been dug up, but there are no bodies inside. This isn't the plot of a horror movie. This is a real mystery that has haunted investigators for nearly a century. In November 1930, a fur trapper arrived at Anjikuni Village in Canada, expecting to trade with the local Inuit families. Instead, he discovered something that defied all logic, an entire town that had vanished overnight without a trace. To this day, no one knows what happened to them. And the truth behind this disappearance is even stranger than you think. On November 12, 1930, an experienced fur trapper named Joe LaBelle made his way toward Anjikuni Village, a small Inuit settlement nestled deep in the remote wilderness of Nunavut, Canada. LaBelle had visited this village before. He knew the people, had traded with them, and expected to be welcomed with warm fires and familiar faces. But as he approached, something felt off. The village was silent. There were no voices, no sled dogs barking, no signs of movement. As he walked closer, LaBelle noticed something even stranger: smoke rising from chimneys. Fires were still burning inside the homes. If the fires were still lit, the villagers had to be nearby, right? But when he stepped into the first home, he found something chilling. The house was empty, but the food was still sitting on the table, untouched, as if someone had left in the middle of a meal. The next home was the same, and the next. A once thriving village had turned into a ghost town overnight. But what LaBelle would find next was even more disturbing. As Joe LaBelle moved through the abandoned homes, a disturbing pattern emerged. It wasn't just that the villagers were gone, it was how they disappeared that made no sense. Everything was left behind: their weapons, their food, even their sled dogs. But the most chilling discovery was just outside the village. Near the outskirts, LaBelle found a group of sled dogs, all dead, frozen in place as if they had been left to starve in the cold. These were dogs that the Inuit relied on for survival. They would never abandon them without reason. But the most unexplainable thing was in the village cemetery. Every grave in the burial ground had been dug up, but the bodies were missing. Who or what would remove the dead from their graves? And why were there no footprints anywhere in the fresh snow? It was as if the entire village had vanished into thin air. LaBelle was now convinced something unnatural had happened here, and whatever it was, it left no trace behind. Joe LaBelle knew one thing for certain: he had to get out of there. Something was very wrong, and he had no intention of staying to find out if it would happen to him too. He immediately left the village and made his way to the nearest telegraph office nearly 20 miles away. There, he sent an urgent message to the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, RCMP, reporting what he had found. Within hours, a team of officers arrived at Anjikuni, expecting to find some explanation. Maybe the villagers had migrated, or had been forced to leave due to harsh weather conditions. But when the RCMP explored the village for themselves, they confirmed everything LaBelle had reported. Fires were still burning, food was still sitting on tables, and the people were gone. The officers found no signs of struggle, no evidence of an attack, and no logical reason why an entire village would suddenly disappear. And then, a local hunter approached them with a bone-chilling revelation. Because on the same night, the villagers vanished. Something strange was seen in the sky. As the RCMP officers searched for answers, a local Inuit hunter approached them with a chilling story. On the same night the village disappeared, he had seen something strange in the sky. A glowing blue light hovering high above the area, moving in ways that defied logic. It wasn't the northern lights. This light was too controlled, shifting directions in a way no natural phenomenon could. Other hunters backed up his claim, saying they had seen strange pulsating lights moving across the sky, followed by a heavy silence that blanketed the land. And this wasn't the first time unexplained lights had been seen in the region. For centuries, Inuit elders had spoken of mysterious beings from the sky, warning that people who wandered too far from the village at night sometimes never returned. Had the villagers seen something they weren't supposed to? Had they been taken? Or was there another explanation hiding beneath the surface? The RCMP had no answers, but one thing was clear: this was no ordinary disappearance. The disappearance of the Anjikuni villagers has been debated for nearly a century, with theories ranging from the logical to the unexplainable. Some experts believe harsh winter conditions forced the villagers to abandon their settlement in search of better resources. But that theory doesn't hold up. Why would they leave behind their weapons, food, and sled dogs, their only means of survival? Others suggest that the village was attacked by an enemy tribe, but again, there were no signs of struggle, no blood, and no damage to the homes. A third theory claims the villagers may have fallen victim to mass hysteria, a psychological phenomenon where a group experiences irrational fear or panic, causing them to act against their own survival instincts. And then, there's the most controversial theory of all, that whatever happened to the Anjikuni villagers wasn't human at all. With reports of glowing blue lights in the sky, some believe the villagers were taken, either by an unknown force or by something not from this world. The lack of footprints, the missing bodies, and the eerie silence of the abandoned village, it all points to something beyond normal explanation. But if this was a hoax, why did the RCMP confirm the details in their initial investigation? And why do similar mass disappearances keep happening throughout history? Years after the disappearance of the Anjikuni villagers, some researchers began to question whether the story was real at all. The Royal Canadian Mounted Police, RCMP, who originally investigated the case, later denied that they had ever found an abandoned village. Official reports claimed that the entire mystery was exaggerated or fabricated by journalists looking for a sensational story. The main source of the tale, fur trapper Joe LaBelle, had no official records backing up his claims, leading some to believe he may have made the whole thing up. Skeptics argue that the strange blue lights seen in the sky could have been natural phenomena, such as the aurora borealis, or atmospheric illusions caused by extreme cold. But if the story was truly a hoax, why did multiple sources over the years continue to reference it as a real event? And more importantly, why are there other historical cases of entire groups of people vanishing without a trace? Because Anjikuni isn't the only village in history to disappear. There have been other cases, ones that are even harder to explain. The disappearance of Anjikuni Village is terrifying, but it's not the only case where an entire group of people has vanished without a trace. One of the most famous disappearances in history was the Roanoke colony established in 1587 on the coast of what is now North Carolina, USA. When a supply ship arrived in 1590, they found all 100-plus settlers missing. There were no bodies, no signs of attack, and the only clue left behind was a single word carved into a tree: Croatoan. To this day, no one knows what happened to them. Another chilling case comes from Brazil in 1923. The village of João Verde, home to over 600 people, was suddenly abandoned overnight. When authorities arrived, they found no signs of life, except for a school where a message had been written on a blackboard. It read, "There is no salvation." No bodies were ever found. No explanation was ever given. Could the disappearance of Anjikuni be connected to these other cases? Or do these stories prove that some mysteries are never meant to be solved? The disappearance of Anjikuni Village remains one of the most chilling unsolved mysteries in history. To this day, no one has been able to explain what happened. Were the villagers forced to leave? Did something take them? Or was the story fabricated all along? Skeptics say it's just a myth, but similar disappearances keep happening throughout history. Whether it was a natural disaster, an unknown threat, or something beyond our understanding, one thing is clear: sometimes people vanish, and they are never found again. But if you thought this story was terrifying, wait until you hear about the man who lived 45 days without a pulse. Doctors said it should have been impossible, but somehow he survived. And what happened next shocked the entire medical world. Click here to watch that unbelievable true story. Next, and don't forget to subscribe for more real-life mysteries that prove when logic fails,